Planning and Zoning Commission, and so I will now call the meeting to order. The commission has been given the responsibility of reviewing development applications in the county's jurisdiction, and that is what we'll be doing this evening. Here's how the meeting will work. First, the planning staff member will present a report on each application. Then the applicant will be given up to 20 minutes to present their proposal. Testimony related to the application then will be heard from the public. Each person will have 3 minutes. And finally, the applicant will then be given 15 minutes for rebuttal. We would ask that tonight, even when you're speaking before the mic, you leave your masks on all evening before you leave the building tonight. And now I will call the roll. Commissioner Cuyo is here. Commissioner Blitman.
Here.
Commissioner Innes. Chris, are you here?
You're, Commissioner Hines, you're muted. All right, Commissioner Hines, go ahead.
What, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, Chris.
Right, thanks.
Commissioner Birch.
Here.
Commissioner Drake.
Here.
Commissioner Hilding.
Here.
Okay, great. Diana, will you start us off on the first item, please?
I will. So this is an application for a rezone. The current zoning is rural urban transition. The property is located on West Franklin, west of Black Cat Road. They are,
Diana, you have to share your screen.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go up, over. Microsoft, yep.
Oh. Okay. We'll try this again. Okay, so they are asking to rezone the property from RUT to the industrial, limited industrial district. They did submit for a development agreement, a master site plan for the contractor's yard and accessory use for the caretaker dwelling, and also a master site plan for the outdoor storage facility. Typically, if the contractor's yard was in the RUT, it would require a conditional use. Because it's not, it's only a master site plan. So this is what they're proposing for the outdoor storage, is this portion of the property to the southern part. There is an existing contractor's road or contractor's yard at the the northern portion. They are wanting to retain that, and there is an existing dwelling that they're going to change into a caretaker dwelling. The residence is not allowed in the RUT or in the M1, so when they switch the zoning, they will have to do the accessory use for the caretaker. They have been working with Meridian. Meridian at this time is not requiring them to annex into the city. They are in support of this application. Staff is recommending approval on this application. So we have rezoned a couple of properties to the M1 in this area because it does comply
I
with,
couldn't hear a lot of that. I don't know if it was just me.
sorry, I'll take my mask off.
I couldn't hear it as well. Yes, please.
Okay, so this is the site. They are doing the outdoor storage facility towards the southern boundary. The northern portion, they are doing a
Diane,
contract.
I still can't hear you. I mean, it's like somebody muted the room. I'll try to unmute it.
You were unmuted. Or you were muted. Okay, is that better?
Can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. So this is I'm going to start over. It is a rezone from the RUT district to the light industrial, which is the M1 district. They are submitting a development agreement. They have a master site plan for the contractor's yard and the outdoor storage facility, and they are requesting an accessory use for a caretaker dwelling. The property, there are several properties in the M1 that are still in the county. They were rezoned a couple of years ago. Meridian is agreeing to a waiver for this project and are in support of it. Because they're rezoning the property into the industrial district, it only requires a master site plan, not a conditional use. The comprehensive plan for Meridian is looking for industrial in the area. And as I said, the city has no opposition to this proposal. Staff is recommending approval, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, I'll go through the commissioners individually to ask if you have questions. Commissioner Blittman, any questions for Diana?
I have none, thank you.
Commissioner Ennis, any questions?
No, thanks.
Commissioner Birch? Jim, do you have any questions for Diana?
Thank you.
Jim, do you have any questions for Diana?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes?
I'm sorry, really quickly. I noticed that the outdoor use is a temporary outdoor use and limited to 5 years. Is that 5 years what was requested, or is that simply the maximum that you have if you have a temporary outdoor storage use?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Birch, that is what the applicant requested. They do not want it to be a permanent facility, and that goes along with Meridian's requirements.
Okay, so that's the longest they could have had. They couldn't have more than 5 years under Meridian's specific requirements, is that right?
Meridian does not want that type of use to continue. They don't mind for it to be temporary. So we put the limit of 5 years per the applicant's request.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Hilding, any questions for Diana?
No questions.
All right, if the applicant would like to come forward and make the presentation, you'll have up to 20 minutes. Please state your name and address first.
One of you is gonna have to pull that mic.
It should catch up.
They don't. I'm not very loud. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Penelope Constantikis, Post Office Box 405, Boise, Idaho 83701. And I'm here representing the applicant, Mr. Fuller. I thank you for being present this evening, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you in person. We have reviewed the staff report and concur with the conditions of approval, including submitting an updated parking plan and a landscape plan. Because of the conversation about the 5-year limit on the temporary use, I would like to address that. I think the 5-year limit was a function of the conditional use permit. And the applicant would like to stay there as long as he's not eligible for annexation. He does understand that the minute he's eligible to annex, he has to cease the use and bring it into compliance with the long-range plan that Meridian has, which is mixed employment. So if the commission is amenable, we'd love to see that 5-year term go away and just have it be a temporary use until such time as the parcel is eligible for annexation, at which time the use would cease, if that would be acceptable. So just a few comments. The applicant acknowledges the zoning inspection requirement. The applicant will work with the Meridian Fire Department to assure the fire flow requirement is handled. We did meet early with Joe Bongiorno at the City of Meridian regarding this project to make sure that we understood what their requirements would be. We understand the ACHD requirements, and obtaining approval of plans is understood. The Central District Health accessory use application will be obtained. We also had detailed meetings with Caleb Hood and Warren Stewart at the City of Meridian to make sure that we understood what their needs would be. According to Warren, Meridian is planning on bringing the sewer main down McDermott Road, and he estimated that it would be, if Meridian does it, it would be at least 10 years before they'd get to this location. It's always possible for a development to occur and the sewer line get dragged down there faster, at which time we, of course, would have to annex. So this is a great temporary use in that it will benefit the county and the City of Meridian by providing an economic alternative for storage of recreational vehicles, and will keep them from being parked on the street, on the public street. The applicant, again, does understand that once the parcel is eligible for annexation into the City of Meridian, the annexation will be undertaken and the parcel will be zoned for whatever is allowed in a mixed use, or excuse me, mixed employment zone. With that, we respectfully, it's kind of weird talking with a mask on. We respectfully request approval, and we would like you to consider maybe removing the 5-year limit on the conditional use permit, understanding that the annexation will effectively terminate the use when it becomes possible.
Thank you, Penelope. Before we get into questions, Jason, can you comment on the commission's ability to extend that 5-year waiver to permanent? No, he cannot.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that's what's stated in the Area of Impact Agreement code for, it's intended to be a temporary 5-year. They have to come back and seek reapproval after 5 years.
All right, thank you very much. Questions from the commission for Penelope. Commissioner Blitman. Brenda, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not, thank you.
Commissioner Innes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes?
Hi. Just possibly, was there a neighborhood meeting, and if there was, or any form of communication which was in objection to the project?
Mr. Chairman, I'm so sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Was there a neighborhood meeting, and
Yes,
what was
sir.
the substance of that?
Yes, sir. We had 2 neighbors attend, and the main topic at the neighborhood meeting was actually a flag and an access point that was on one of the parcels next door. Apparently, the 2 neighbors were arguing about that. So other than presenting the project to them and explaining to them what I explained to you, there was no discussion.
Okay, so the 2 people you mentioned, they were in agreement to the project?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, right. So we've heard nothing from them, so I'll take it as true. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch, any questions for the applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Drake, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Hilding?
No questions.
All right. Are there any members of the public online or in person who wish to comment on the application? Hearing none, I guess, Penelope, you don't need to rebuttal your own opening statement, so I will open the floor to comments from the commissioners on the application, just shout out and/or raise your hand. I can see most of you.
I had,
Yes, Commissioner Blitman.
I had questions for the staff.
Yes. She's right here. Go ahead.
Am I understanding this right, that there's there's several things that ACHD is gonna require be done for this property?
That
So
is
there's
correct.
cooperation with ACHD about the traffic pattern and the sidewalks and all of that?
Chairman QEO, Commissioner Blitman, yes, they have some specific requirements for this application. It is part of the exhibits.
So I just wanted to confirm that there wasn't any discussion about it, so I wanted to make sure that that was part of the package. It sounds like it is. Thank you.
Any other comments on the application from the commission?
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman,
Commissioner Hilding?
No, that was actually staff would like to clarify.
Yes, go ahead,
Chairman
Diana.
QEO, on the 5-year, that is typically in the RUT, in the residential district. We have that requirement that it can't exceed 5 years or they have to reapply. So we didn't make that condition. We went by what was proposed in the applicant's detailed letter, that it's a temporary use. And that's how Meridian also, they reviewed the application that was submitted to us.
So
So
if they
it's
wanted to
not
make it-
from our code, it was more what the applicant had requested.
So if they wanted to make it permanent or longer than 5 years, they would have to come back to us with another application.
Not according to our code, unless we keep it in the conditions of approval that you're going to be recommending to the board. If that goes with it, then it's up to the board if they want to leave that in or take that 5-year out.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Other comments on the application from the commission? All right, well, hearing none, I'll mention that since 5 years has been proposed and 5 years is in the application, I think we should stick with that in what we do here tonight. So if there are no other comments or questions, the floor is open for a motion. Just shout out. Chris, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, so I'll make the motion. Sorry about that, the button wasn't on. Right, so based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained here, the commission recommends approval to the board for the project number 2002086-GA-CU-MSE-AC, subject to the conditions of approval attached to Exhibit A dated this day of. For some reason, I'm missing the month and the date. So, can anybody tell me that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, because we send you a draft, we're no longer putting the date and the year or the signatures on that order page. We will actually, once you make a recommendation, we have a set that has the date and a place for the chairman to sign. And so he would do that at that time. But as it was submitted, it was a draft copy to make sure this is what you wanted. We're kind of doing a little change to make it,
So you don't need the date?
no.
Include today's date, please.
Sorry?
It's just today's date, Chris, so August 13th, 2020.
Okay, so dated this day, August the 13th, 2020. Thanks.
There's a motion for approval on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Blitman, approved for, made a motion for approval by Commissioner Innes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Brent, looks like you're up for item number 2. Gwen, was there anything you wanted to say on this application?
Yes, please. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, I would like to enter a statement into the record before we proceed with this presentation.
Yes.
Would like to recuse myself from this discussion and voting. I live in Avamor and I own a home in Avamor, and I know the applicant very well. And since these applications are for future development in Avamor, I think it best that, like I said, recuse myself from participating in this discussion.
All right, thank you, Gwen. Brent, you're on.
It's the Microsoft Edge, Brent.
Okay.
Not sure which one, but one of those. Not that one.
Sorry, I can't hear any audio.
Brent's loading the presentation.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, project number 2020-00861S is a preliminary plat for the Avamor Village Center subdivision. The subdivision consists of 36 residential lots, 3 commercial lots, and 9 common lots for a total of 48 lots. The subdivision is a re-subdivision of Lot 1, Block 16 of Avamor Subdivision Number 1, and also of lots 3, 4, and 5 of Block 13 of Avamor Subdivision Number 5. The property is located in the Avamor Planned Community and is in Avamor's Village Center Land Use District. The residential lots will consist of attached townhomes and live-work units. The attached townhomes will be east of McLeod Way. So this is McLeod Way right here, and these will be the attached town lots right here. And then on the other side of McLeod Way, we'll have the live-work units. So the live-work units will be right here along Talon and Stream's Edge, and also right here on McLeod. And then we'll have the 3 commercial pads along Avamor Drive and a little bit right here on Stream's Edge Way. The 20 live-work units will be vertically integrated multi-story units in 3 and 4 unit buildings. The ground floor will include commercial and residential entrances from the street. Commercial space is planned to be 400 to 800 square feet per unit. Upper floor residential units will be approximately 1,200 to 1,800 square feet and will have access to a ground floor garage. The 16 attached townhomes are designed to be front-oriented towards the street or common area. The livable square footage of the units are planned to be approximately 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet. The project will be completed in 4 phases. The first phase will be the attached townhomes right over here east of McLeod Way. The second and third phases will be the live-work units. This will be phase 2 over here and phase 3 over here. And then the last phase, which is phase 4, will be the commercial pads. The land use map of the Avamor specific plan shows the property to be village center. So if you look at this, unfortunately, it doesn't come up really great, but the red right here is village center. So this comes up as the village center. And then the proposed subdivision complies with the Avamor specific plan. The subdivision is a part of Avamor's mixed-use village center. The Avamor specific plan encourages housing products in and adjacent to the mixed-use village center. The mix of commercial uses, live-work units, and townhomes proposed in the subdivision will promote more community activity within Avamor's Village Center, which is consistent with the Avamor specific plan. The attached townhomes and live-work units will provide additional housing options within Avamor. As conditioned, the subdivision complies with Chapter 8-6 of the AA County Code. 3 of the attached townhome lots, which are lots 20, 21, and 22 of Block 1, do not meet the lot frontage requirement. These lots currently front a common area. However, they are required to front either a street or alley. As evidenced by condition number 2B, the plat will need to be revised, and these lots are highlighted kind of with this red rectangle. These lots will need to be revised so that these lots have frontage either onto the street or onto an alley. The proposed subdivision as condition complies with AA County Code and the Avamor specific plan, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions from the commission. Commissioner Blitman. Brenda, do you have any questions for Brent?
I did have a question. So when I noticed in the application that it had comments or information from the school districts, and even though this unit was only going to add 29 kids, it clearly showed that the schools were already over that this would be servicing. So how do we reconcile that?
The Avamor does have a school site on this in the community itself, and so part of it is more, I would say, the school district, probably obviously planning for that area in terms of adding schools. So that could be, floating a school bond for the community to vote on to see if they want to, if the community within the USAA school district wants to, finance additional schools in the school district. The applicant does have a school site and has worked with the school district on the school site, and the applicant may be able to provide a little bit more information on that.
Brenda, do you have any other questions for Brent?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Commissioner Ennis, any questions for Brent on the application?
No, thanks.
Commissioner Birch?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Hilding?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow the discussion. I'm very interested in the overcapacity issue as well. And you said that Avamor has a school site. What does that mean? That there's a school there, or they might build one someday, or they're committed to building one, or what? I didn't know.
As part of the mitigation to services, so basically when Avamor was entitled back in 2006, Avamor did a number of studies economic studies to figure out what impact they would have on local service providers. And so the mitigation to the school district was for Avamor to donate to the school district a school site. So Avamor, has donated a school site to the school district to mitigate their impact onto the school district. And I believe the only school, currently there's 2 schools that are over capacity, the elementary school and the high school. West Ada School District currently has a Hawaii High School under construction. Once a Hawaii High School is built, then the attendance boundaries for the existing high schools will be redrawn. And so I think most of the Star area will probably be going to the Hawaii High School, the new Hawaii High School, which would then open up capacity at Eagle High School.
Paul, you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, you think that's going to happen, but we don't know that. And when you said it's a school site, again, to be real clear, is that a piece of raw land, or is there a building under construction there?
It's raw land.
All right, so there is an expectation that this problem will be solved by construction of a new high school. Is that what you said?
Well, the high schools are actually already under construction. So within the next year or two, a new high school will open up, and at the high school level, that would create capacity at Eagle High School.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Brent from the commission before we move on?
Yeah, I do have an additional question. The report says that, I'm trying to get a sense about traffic issues out there as well. it says ACHD does not set level of service thresholds for state highways. So is that correct, that no analysis has been done regarding the impact of expanding Avamor on State Highway 55? Or has ITDs done some kind of analysis? Is that analysis available to us?
So ITD does set the analysis, and I did have asked ITD for comments. So I transmitted to ITD, and I also followed up with ITD. And at this point in time, I haven't received any comments from them. I know ITD, I know Avamor has worked with ITD in terms of the traffic mitigation, for the Avamor planning community. And the applicant may be able to give a little bit more further explanation on that. It's my understanding that as Avamor develops beyond the current existing village that Avamor is in now, as it goes west of the highway and north into Gem and Boise County, there's, I think, an expectation that basically Highway 55 through that area will become a limited access highway. And I believe that Avamor would be responsible for building an interchange in that area long term. So I think the applicant could probably give a little bit more explanation about the short term that they've worked with ITD on. So
do you have any concern that this hearing is premature because we have not heard back from ITD about, it seems like a pretty important question, whether, what the traffic impact is?
I've reached out to
ITD.
and unfortunately ITD doesn't seem too concerned because they haven't, given me any formal written testimony. So I've transmitted to them initially. I emailed them asking for comments from them, and unfortunately they haven't given me any comments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or for Brent from the commission? All right, will the applicant come forward, please, and perhaps in your remarks you could address any information you have on ITD's stance on the project.
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I apologize, Chio. Anyways, my name is Brad Famuler. I'm with Avamor Development. Our address is 18454 North McLeod Way, Boise, Idaho, 83714. And before I get started, I want to thank staff and Brent especially. It was a very comprehensive report that he put together with quite a few conditions of approval on it. And we are in, we completely agree with all the conditions. One of them was the 3 lots that need to go and have access on access out to the public roads. So we are going to amend our preliminary plat and resubmit it before it gets back to the commissioners, if we are so lucky, and make sure that those meet. One of the other items that came up was the schools. And Commissioner Blitman had brought that up. So we had an agreement, or we have an agreement with West Ada School District, and it's been in place since 2008 when we brought this project on and we did the Avamor specific plan. The Avamor specific plan talks about what our schools are, talks about where we put our density, and it is all accounted for. And so we've had the preliminary plat in 2008. We had another preliminary plat in 2016 that modified it a little bit. And every time the school districts have been able to comment on it and work with us. We have a school site that has been designated. The school district said at this time they don't have any funds to construct a building. We have the agreement with them that at the time they do, we will provide them with a property that is between 8 and 10 acres in size, and that it will either be adjacent to a park that they can have dual use on it or not. But at this time, they think it's just too far out in their planning because we don't have enough kids. We have less than 1 school-age child in our homes. we have some of the lowest children per capita for our houses currently. Second item that I wanted to bring up, just since Commissioner Hildy brought it up, was traffic. We have worked with ITD and ACHD ever since 2008. There's quite a few things that they require us to do. We do traffic studies. In fact, we're just finishing up one right now to see how our impact is on the community. One thing that has been a big shock to ITD and ACHD, and they do traffic counts, if not every year, every other year, is that the traffic from Avamor is 40% less than a typical subdivision in Ada County or the Valley. And the reason for that is because when the people come and go, they go and they plan their trips a little bit more wisely. They don't decide that they're going to run down to the store and grab a gallon of milk or run over to the movie theater really quick and come out. It's all been pretty much planned is how they do it. And so we have 40% less traffic that are going out on the road. And we have committed to some very large projects through ITD. Some of those projects, one, we were in front of the commissioners this week on Monday for an underpass, which is a grade separation at our north access off of McLeod. That grade separation originally 5 years ago was estimated to cost about $10 million. We've been working with the engineers, the design engineers, ITD, and we got that number down to about $3.5 million just for the underpass. And so that is in the works, and we hope that will be an item that we can do here in the next couple years. We also have an underpass that we are in design on with ITD for Highway 55 at Avamor Drive, and that would be relocating the state highway. So we've been doing a lot of upfront work with ITD and ACHD. We put in the traffic light out there on Highway 55. We put in a new access up at McLeod for our secondary access. And so we continue to work with them and make sure that with our CID that we are paying our way. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions from the commission for the applicant. Commissioner Blitman.
I don't have any at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Innes. Chris, you're still on mute.
Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Got you now.
Okay, great. Thanks. Right, so considering that there are neighbours and this development is development of a previous set of houses, have any neighbours made any comments?
Brad, have any neighbors commented on your project in this application?
So on this specific one, no, they have not. Now we do until this COVID thing kind of kicked into high gear about 3 months ago. We do monthly meetings where we meet with it's called the Builder Developer meeting that we invite all of Avamor to come to. We do it once a month usually in the middle of the month, and it's on a Wednesday. And 1 month it'll be in the morning, and 1 month it'll be in the evening. We've been talking about these two projects for about 2 years now. And so I think everybody is very well aware what's coming and where they're and what was planned on this. In fact, we have 3 or 4 different neighbors that want to purchase one of these units so that they can have. One of them is a CPA that wants to put a shingle out in front of that. Another one was a bike shop, and another one was a coffee shop. And so they're really excited about this live work. And one of the other components is that part of our specific plan that was back in 2008 was that we are required to have 10 rental units by the time Village 1 is built out. And this will allow us to do that. And with that, I'll stand.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. I'm sure if any of the neighbours want to talk, they will be here tonight. So, right, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch, any questions for the applicant?
Brad kind of addressed a couple of things that I was interested in. That was the live work units. And I may be blurring the lines between the two applications, this one and the townhomes that are to the north of the development. But I'm curious if there has been any objections raised about the rental units. Because I read what the report said about the rentals. I understand that you'll have the rental units. Will they simply be the live-work units that will be rental units, or will there be other rental units as well?
Thank you, Commissioner Birch. Actually, we have a developer that wants to take the first 16 units that are on the right and make those rental units. Right now, it's very difficult to find any rental units in our community. There's 3 or 4 that do pop up every once in a while, and they range anywhere from $2,000 to $2,400 a month to rent a house. And so this developer would like to go and take those first 16 units and turn those into high-end rentals.
So those would all be grouped together then?
Yeah, potentially. They may only take 10 of them, but right now they would like to take all 8 buildings and 16 units.
Okay. And have neighbors objected to having the rental units there? What would basically be permanent rental units?
No, it's been part of our specific plan from day one. It was a condition that the county put on us that we have to have that. And we're trying to do it instead of just building a 10-unit apartment complex. We're trying to do it with duplex or duets and make it look and feel more like it's a single-family home in the community in our core area.
Okay. And the live-work units, you mentioned CPAs. I was thinking things like real estate offices. You could even have medical offices. Is that kind of the idea? Is anything where you could have an individual live there but also have a kind of a white-collar practice there as well? Is that kind of what the live-work units are?
Yeah, Commissioner Birch, yes, that is exactly what it is. And they can keep it, 1 or 2 employees and keep it, on the smaller scale.
Okay. No, thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hilding, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, back to traffic. I'm a little uncomfortable. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have any input apparently from ITD at this point. I realize these 2 particular projects, the one we're talking about right now and the other one, are not super big in scale. But I guess the problem that I can conceive would be sort of death by 1,000 cuts. If you keep expanding what you intend to do over the years, at some point in time, do we have a problem with traffic on Highway 55? I'm on the other side of town, so I don't really know much about Highway 55. What is the current, what is your own feeling about the current situation on Highway 55? And at what point in time is additional mitigation going to be required?
Thank you, Commissioner Hildy. Our current stance is that, in fact, we just had a meeting with our traffic engineers today, Kittleson and Associates, and one of the things that we were looking at in 2030, there's some areas that start getting a little tight. We're trying to plan for the future right off the bat so that we can combat those areas and make sure that they don't become a pinch point. There's other pinch points that are in Boise and especially up north in Banks that are much more important to ITD to go and get those corrected. Highway 55 is functioning currently today well, and in the future it shows that it does well until I think 2030 is what the traffic study came out with. And that's similar to what the 2008 traffic study and the 2014 traffic study that ITD, ACHD, and the City of Eagle put together. It was called the Comprehensive Northwest Foothills Traffic Study in Eagle.
Paul, you have any follow-up questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission before Brad is through with his comments? All right, hearing none, are any members of the public online or in the room who would like to comment on the project? All right, thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, the floor is open for comments on the application. Anyone?
I just had a quick question for staff.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Is there anything in this application, as you went through and compared it to the original work that was done for Avamor, that would be different or something that we should be aware of? I mean, is it all consistent with what the original applications has been all along?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Littleman, the application is in compliance with what has been envisioned for the development of Avamor through their specific plan. So basically, in that specific plan, basically it indicated that there would be kind of multi-family units in the village center, and that could include mixed use, live-work units, could include townhomes, could include apartments or condominiums. So this is very much consistent with what is envisioned for that mixed-use center in the specific plan.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners on the application?
Yeah, this is Paul. I feel uncomfortable voting on this because I feel like I'm missing information. First of all, I think the project itself looks really good to me. It's appealing, and so it's not specific to this project, but I feel like I'm lacking information, probably outside the control of the developer, and that is I don't have a good sense of the impact on traffic because we don't have any response yet from ITD. And the schools issue is of concern. It sounds like there's some interim planning going on, the hope that there might be some money in the future when a new school needs to be built. On the other side of the coin, I don't think I could vote against this because nobody showed up to oppose it. So perhaps my concerns are, perhaps I should not be concerned. But at this point, I don't feel like I have enough information on those two issues. So I am going to abstain from the vote if there is a motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Paul. Brent, can you enlighten us on any information you had regarding traffic or how that may have entered into staff's recommendation for approval?
Sure, Commissioner Cuyo and Commissioner Hilding. So with the development of the specific plan actually has a maximum unit count. And so basically with the unit count, basically Avamor has to be within 10% of that unit count because that unit count was based upon what impact that Avamor would have on public services. So in terms of when they got the initial entitlement for the plan community, and then when we had a later comprehensive plan amendment to make some changes a few years ago, the public service providers and agencies such as ITD were able to knew kind of what the unit count of Avamor was going to be. And so a lot of the comments that when we were doing the initial entitlement and also the comprehensive plan amendment a few years ago, kind of addressed based upon that unit count of the number of units that were going to be in Avamor. So ITD during the initial entitlement and then also during the last comprehensive plan amendment that occurred a few years ago to make some changes to the design of Avamor was aware of the unit counts that were going to be in Avamor itself. So they are aware of that we're going to have this many units within Avamor.
Thank you, Brent. Any other questions for Brent or comments from the commissioners on the application? All right, the floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to address a couple of the comments.
Go ahead, Brenda.
I would have a lot more worry about this particular plat or what is it? preliminary
application.
plat, if it wasn't part of a bigger issue, a bigger thing that's gonna approved all the way along. I agree with Commissioner Helding that traffic and schools are an issue, but a bunch of people have paid money to build their houses there, and this is what's been planned all along. So I don't think now is the time to say, oh, we can't do it because of schools or because of traffic. I think that those are certainly important issues, and my yes vote doesn't mean I don't care about those issues.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not saying it should be built. I'm not clear that sufficient mitigation has been required. That's the distinction. And what I've heard are some vague comments, none of them legally enforceable, I don't think, about what might be happening in terms of building, constructing another school somewhere else. That there's an agreement with the West Ada School District to build on 8 to 10 acres that will be provided by Avamor if West Ada could ever find the money to put some kind of a structure on that piece of land, and so forth. So I'm not against. Well, I've said enough. I just don't feel like I have enough assurance. It's really intriguing to me that nobody has spoken out against. It's really interesting to me because I know there's been a great deal of opposition as recently as last year to some of what was going on out there. But I don't know, I'm not going to consider any ex parte information. So all I know is I don't feel like I have sufficient information right now to support a yes vote. But that's just me.
Jason, you have something you'd like to add?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, if I could just maybe enlighten a little bit. I recognize some of the commissioners are new to this process, especially with the planned communities. And I totally understand and respect the feeling of not having all of the information in the complete picture. But what Brent was talking about with these specific plans that are adopted, the planned communities go through an extensive planning process, working with ITD and the schools to identify the mitigation that's needed up front. And as they work through the approval process, they come back piece by piece, and we double check and make sure that they're within those metrics. That's what Brent was talking about, the number of units that are built, and there's requirements for mitigation at certain points along the path. And so it is a little bit of a different process with the planned communities because they are such a large scale that those mitigation factors are in essence negotiated and discussed up front, as opposed to as each preliminary plat comes through in what we see in a more traditional subdivision. And so Brent had alluded to and had mentioned the different traffic studies that had been done several times up there at Avamor. And those were done to make sure that the mitigation was being done and was adequate as it goes through the approval process. And so again, Commissioner Hilding, understanding your concern, and I think I respect that and understand that, but I guess I just want to make sure that it's clear that those mitigation efforts, again, are negotiated and discussed with the project as a whole, as opposed to each individual phase or each individual preliminary plat that comes through.
Yeah, and I understand that this was a planned development and that agreements were reached at the inception. I do understand that. It doesn't always mean those were the right decisions, that those decisions were perfect. So again, I don't want to take up too much time. I've made my point.
Any other discussion from the commission on the application before the floor is open for a motion? The floor is open for a motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. Okay, can you hear me?
Commissioner Innes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained herein and the testimony from the public hearing, the Commission recommends approval of project number 202000861S to the board, subject to the conditions of approval attached to Exhibit A and preliminary plat, the date dated May 20, 2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Blitman, motion made to approve by Commissioner Innes. I'm going to go through you individually to ask for your vote on this. Please vote yea or nay. Commissioner Blitman.
Yay.
Commissioner Innes.
Yay.
Commissioner Birch.
Yay.
Commissioner Hilding.
I'll abstain.
And Commissioner Cuyo votes yes, so the application is approved. Okay, regarding Avamor Townhouse North subdivision, Gwen, I think there's a comment you wanted to make on this one also.
There is, yes. Same as before. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, I would like to enter a statement. In the record before I proceed, I do live in Avamor and I would like to recuse myself. I know the applicant very well, and since these applications are for future development of Avamor, I think it best, like I said, to recuse myself from participating in these discussions and voting on these applications.
Thank you, Gwen. All right, Brent, give it to us.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, project number 2020-00864S is a preliminary plat for the Avamor Townhouse North subdivision. The subdivision consists of 24 residential lots and 12 common lots for a total of 36 lots. The property is located on the north side of West Elk Trail Street, in between North McLeod Way and North Shepherd's Pie Way in Section 6 and 7 of Township 5 North, Range 2 East, in the Avamor Plan Community in their Village Residential Land Use District. The property consists of approximately 6.26 acres. The residential lots will consist of attached town homes. The land use map of the Avamor specific plan designates the property as Village Residential, which is intended to provide a variety of housing types and densities. The proposed townhomes will provide an alternative housing option to the community, which is primarily comprised of detached single-family homes, which is consistent with the Avamor specific plan. The subdivision complies with Chapter 8-6 of the residential law, as residential lots comply with the dimensional standards of the Village Residential Land Use District. The A County Highway District is requiring the applicant to extend Glenencia Avenue, which is the street right here, and also Shepherd's Pie Way, which is right here, as public roads into the development. This requirement is reflected in condition number 2B. The proposed subdivision complies with the A County Code and the Avamor specific plan. I'll now stand for any questions.
Questions for Brent from the commission. Commissioner Blitman, any questions for Brent?
No questions.
Commissioner Innes?
No questions, thanks.
Commissioner Birch?
No questions.
Commissioner Hilding?
No questions.
All right, if the applicant would like to come forward and give us their presentation. Name and address first again, please, Brad.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairman. Brad Famuler, Avamor Development. Our address is 18454 North McLeod Way, Boise, Idaho, 83714. I want to thank Brent. I know that sounds like a broken record, but this was a very comprehensive review of our application, and there's quite a few conditions of approval that we agree with, and we will abide by, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions for the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Blitman?
I don't have questions, thank you.
Commissioner Innes?
Hi, Brad again. Just to clarify, make sure that the neighbours are okay, and if there has been a neighbourhood meeting or any such information, have you found any that is against this project?
Yes, we did have a neighborhood meeting. And again, we have every month until the COVID thing comes in. We have had these on a display, and we talk about them in our monthly meetings that we do as developer and builder council. We had one neighbor that had moved in, and it had been shown on the plan for a long time, and she had some questions and some concerns. We did move some of the parking away. It was about 60 feet from her house, and now it's 100 feet from her house. So we did some movement away and angling in a little different angle. Other than that, we haven't had anybody else question it. I know there's been quite a few people that would like to purchase it for their family members that want to move closer, but and make it a little bit more cost effective for them here in the valley.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And I guess if there's still objection, we'll get from them. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch, any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Hilding, any questions?
No questions.
All right, thank you, Brad. Take a seat. The floor is now open for comments on the application from the commissioners. Any comments?
Oh, yeah, I noticed that unlike the other application, this one makes no mention whatsoever of impact on schools. I guess I should have asked that question earlier. On the other application, it was the very last page 161 of 161. So it's possible I missed it here, but I didn't find the letter from the West Ada School District, and I did not find it referenced in the summary either. Do we know why there's no mention of impact on schools for this project?
Brent, can you comment on that?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Hilding, I did not receive a letter from the school district on this application. Based on the location of this proposed development, I would assume that it's going to be the same kind of impacts that the other subdivision has. I did have a table in the staff report that kind of identified some of the public service stuff. And in that table, I did put the information I had gotten from the letter from the Village Center subdivision. I incorporated that into the table for the Townhome North project.
Paul, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, just that obviously if the school district didn't even send a letter, my level of confidence has not been enhanced on this project, that the necessary thinking has been done and that the appropriate information has been obtained. But that's just a comment. That's not requiring any response from anybody.
Any other comments before we take a motion? All right,
Brent,
yes. Commissioner Blitman.
Is there a way that we could say, gosh, we asked that the final package that goes to the commissioners includes that letter from the Meridian School District? Or, I mean, could we add that as a condition?
So
I think
Mr.
it's a valid point.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Blitman, I will transmit this application. So when it goes to the board, it'll be transmitted again to the same agencies that I had transmitted to you. So it'll be transmitted again to the school district. And I guess I'll just hound the school district that we need a letter from them on this application, even though they had sent one for the other application.
Any other questions or comments from the commission before we have a motion? The floor is, yes.
Change the motion in order for that to happen, or is that just?
We haven't made a motion yet, Brenda.
That would be just standard practice, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Blitman, is that we do obviously transmit again, and then agencies have another opportunity to comment on the application. I'll be very persistent with the school district in getting them a letter before this goes in front of the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Brent. Before we move on to a motion, I neglected to ask if any members of the public here or online would like to comment on this application. All right, the floor is open for a motion.
Okay, I'll pass the motion. Okay.
Commissioner Ennis.
Thanks. You can hear me? Right, good. So based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained here and the testimony from the public hearing, the Commission recommends approval of project number 202000864-S to the board, subject to the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit A in the preliminary plat, dated June 28, 2020.
Is there a second?
I would second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for approval of the application. Any discussion? All right, I'll ask separately for your votes. Please vote yea or nay. Commissioner Blittman,
Yay.
Commissioner Ennis,
Yay.
Commissioner Birch,
Yay.
Commissioner Hilding,
Can abstain again based on lack of sufficient information.
all right, and Commissioner Cuyo votes yea, so the application is approved. On the next item, 202-001149-CU-MSP, M&C Stanley LLC. The floor is open for a motion to table.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Blittman.
I move that the commission table 202-001149-CU-MSP for a contractor's yard until the next meeting. Next meeting scheduled for September 10th, 2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Blittman, seconded by Commissioner Ennis to table until the next meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Yay.
Aye.
Yay.
Opposed? Okay, the item is tabled until the next meeting. Okay, on to the next item. Brent, you have that one also.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, project number 2020-01297 CU-AC is a conditional use application for an approximately 20,448 square foot indoor riding arena, along with an accessory use application for a secondary dwelling. The property is located at the west end of East Clear Creek Drive in Section 24, Township 4 North, Range 1 West, and consists of approximately 9.45 acres. The indoor arena and stables will be primarily used for private use. However, the owner has indicated in exhibit number 37 that they want the ability to board up to 10 horses on the property, which includes allowing for their friends and family to also board their horses on the property. The owner also wants the option to hold training sessions on the property for the horses and riders kept on site. This will allow them flexibility to hire a trainer to come to the site for lessons rather than hauling their horses off-site for training. The proposed secondary dwelling is within the riding arena, and so if you look at the drawing here, we have the proposed arena the secondary dwelling is kind of right here, kind of in the front of the arena and stable building. Since the footprint of the structure is greater than 10,000 square feet, the structure must be designed such that the building mass and bulk are distributed. The structure resembles a barn with stable doors and other openings punctuating the north and south elevations of the structure. There is variation in the roof lines as there are multiple roof lines. So I'll try to kind of maybe see if I can kind of zoom in a little bit on this. So it doesn't look like I'm able to zoom in, but you can kind of see here, here's a gable roof line towards the entrance of the secondary dwelling. This is the secondary dwelling. And then we have another gable along this outdoor patio. And then we have a shed roof over the stables themselves. And then we have another gable over the indoor riding arena. And then we have 3 cupolas for architectural interest. The property is an Eagles area of impact. The future land use map designates the property as a residential estate, which is intended primarily for single-family residential on land which may be in transition from agricultural to residential use, or may contain a mixture of agricultural and residential uses. The proposal is compatible with the adopted comprehensive plan, as the secondary dwelling will be accessory to the primary dwelling to be located on the property. And the indoor riding arena is rural in nature and will be utilized by the property owner and their friends and family. Staff finds that the application complies with AA County Code and the adopted comprehensive plan, and I'll now stand for any questions.
Questions for Brent from the commission. Commissioner Blitman.
I have none, thank you.
Commissioner Innes.
Hi, just one question. I don't know if this is for you or the applicant, but is this guaranteed to be a family concern with friends, and it's not going to turn into a business?
And that might be a question to ask the applicant, because they could give a little bit more further explanation on that.
Okay, I'll do that. Great, thanks. Thank you.
Commissioner Birch, questions for Brent on the application?
No, I have no questions for Brent. Thank you.
Commissioner Drake.
No questions.
Commissioner Hilding.
No questions, thank you.
All right, in that case, if the applicant would like to come forward with his presentation, please give us your name and address first.
So David Sterling with TO Engineers, 2471 South Titanium Place. The applicant is also here to answer any questions. Brent did a great job of explaining the site and showing it to you, so I won't go into detail about that. I do want to point out that the Meridian Fire Department reviewed and had some comments on the plans, and we revised that to add the turnaround that they wanted, as well as the draft fire hydrant out of the pond, and then they issued a letter of approval. We've also have obtained a 404 permit for our disturbance on site, and we also already submitted a floodplain development permit and grading permit application to the county and received plan approval on that as well. We held, since I know this question is coming, we held 2 neighborhood meetings for this project. We sent out the notices right before the whole COVID thing exploded, and so we ended up holding a neighborhood meeting kind of right in the middle towards the end of March. We had about 4 or 5 neighbors show up. There was some concerns about traffic, mainly, is what people focused on, and just wanted to know what we were proposing to do. And then we held another neighborhood meeting after the county finally started opening up, and they said that we could hold a neighborhood meeting, so we held another one. We had another 4 or 5 people show up. Some were the same, some were actually different. Since that time, we have reached out to even more neighbors and asked them to submit emails in support of it, basically. And so we've had 6 emails come in that we forwarded on to the county that showed their support. One of the neighbors, who I believe will testify, is 2 houses down from the project, and he is concerned, I think, mainly about traffic. To try to address those, we did submit that letter, that's exhibit number 37, where we offered those 3 conditions of limiting the number of horses on site to 10, also only having 4 private riding clinics per year, and then having no show, horse shows on site. There was one condition of approval on the conditional use permit that said that we should obtain approval from Pioneer Irrigation District for any site change. Let me find it. And I would just like it to have it stricken because we don't have, Settlers Irrigation. So on the conditions of approval, number 1C, it says the Settlers Irrigation District must approve all proposed modifications to the existing irrigation system. There is an existing irrigation system on site, but it's private water, and we've actually done a water right transfer with the Thurman Mill for that water right. And so I just don't know why this comment's in here, so if that could be stricken, that would be nice. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Blittman, any questions?
I don't have any, thank you.
Commissioner Innes?
Hi. Thanks, David. So back to the previous question, is this going to remain a private concern? Like I said, it's going to be private riding clinics. Therefore, is it going to remain in your family, with your friends, and not turn into some business later on?
Okay, so the owner is here and he can answer that better than I can, but the intent is, so his personal house is also on site, and so the arena is there for his use and his friend's use, but he would like the option to board, people's horses there to help pay for it. He has several horses, but he has 9 stalls in the building, and so that's why we asked that he be allowed to board up to 10 horses there.
Right, okay, great. Thanks a lot for the reply. Thanks.
Commissioner Birch, any questions for the applicant?
No questions, just an observation. I'm familiar with this area. It is kind of a little bit of heaven when you drop off that bluff and come north where this is. And I was impressed with the conditions the applicant was willing to impose on the property. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Birch. Commissioner Drake, any questions for the applicant?
I did, yes, thank you. You had mentioned the traffic concerns and that you had put in place several of these things in order to mitigate those. I didn't hear back, or maybe I missed it. Were they okay with the way you wanted to mitigate those traffic concerns? Have you heard back from them?
Yeah, so we sent the same letter that we sent to the county where we offered those to the neighbors, and we received 6 replies that we then forwarded on to the county. I did not see a reply back from the one neighbor that, that basically voiced the main concern. He has not replied to that.
Okay, but the majority of them?
Yes.
They're fine with it. Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Hilding, any questions for the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
Right, thanks very much. We'll open the floor now to any members of the public who would like to testify on the application. Please come forward. Tom Moore or Lynn Sandy Watson, I have your names here. Are you in the house?
Tom Morris.
You're in your house.
I'm in my house.
Okay, proceed.
Yes. First of all, I'm the one owner that objected about the.
I'm sorry, Tom. Could you give your name and address to start, please?
Sure, no problem. Tom Moore, 152 East Clear Creek, Meridian. So, as the one owner that objected to this, I did not receive anything from the applicant regarding the traffic mitigation. Secondly, the applicant with the caretaker unit, with that additional family living on site, we have no idea what size that would be, well, actually used up his daily trips between the applicant and the caretaker's unit. Now, last time I talked to Jason or emailed him, none of this was on the table. It was last discussion we had to have borders or have shows there, he would have to have a conditional use permit. So this is all news to me, and I can tell you on the appeal, you will have many people objecting to this. Now, we're perfectly fine with the applicant building a house and having a covered arena and having as many horses as he needs or wants. And we're also in favor of him to bring a trainer in as many times as he wants, a week to train himself. But what we're dead set against is borders and people coming in and have shows with the borders or clinics with the borders. that's unacceptable for these roads. And one commissioner said he was familiar with this area. What he is, he knows the road is only improved by 24 feet. So when you park a car on the side of the road, it doesn't give you a lot of room, and the shoulder in most of these roads is a ditch. So you really only have 24 feet to park. And the places where it's not a ditch, people have landscaped that area, and they yell and scream at you if you park your car on there. So I know several associations will be against this. We were not prepared to have this presented this way tonight. Thank you.
Any questions for Tom from the commissioners? Commissioner Blitman. Brenda, do you have any questions?
I guess I read through the application, and if Tom could specifically say which piece of it is different than what he was presented when he had the neighborhood meeting, that would be great.
Yes, I had to send direct questions to Jason to get him to answer any questions. And the last answer he got was they may have a few friends, and no horse shows or clinics. So somehow or another, since that conversation, it has changed to be 10 horses and with horse clinics. I'm sure Jason could contest to that. And if you follow my emails I sent on this project, you will also see that as well.
Commissioner Innes, any questions for Tom, the public testimony?
No, thanks.
Commissioner Birch.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Drake, any questions for Tom on his public testimony?
No questions.
Commissioner Hilding.
No questions.
All right, we have someone else signed up to comment, and that is Lynn Sandy Watson. Are you on the line with us?
Commissioner Keogh, she is no longer going to testify.
All right, fine. Would the applicant like to come up for rebuttal? Name and address, please.
So David Sterling with TO Engineers again, 2471 South Titanium Place. So Sandy did send us an email saying that she wasn't going to testify, but she was
I'm sorry, you're going to have to put your mask down. I didn't hear a word you said before, and I'd like to hear what you have to say now.
Okay. So we did get an email from Sandy today saying that she was planning on testifying, but that she couldn't log on or something, and so, that she was in support of our application. As far as the concern about parking, the roads out there are rural because these are all 5-acre and 10-acre lots, but there's not going to be any parking on the street. We have 2 garages on both sides of the accessory dwelling that provides ample parking for the accessory dwelling, plus there's parking in front of that space for anybody that's coming to the arena. During those emails back and forth that is in the between the city's or the county staff and Tom, they are in the record, and in there the staff said that there was no limit on the number of horses per the zoning that could be kept on site. We offered the 10 as a limit, as an upper limit, to help satisfy Tom so that he would have some type of level of comfort with that. We had always talked about wanting to be able to do on-site training for people who had their horses there. That's something that we've always talked about. We did offer the condition of no shows, again, to try to make Tom more comfortable with it, that we wouldn't have any of those on site. And then we limited the number of clinics to 4 per year to help satisfy that. The applicant is also here who might be able to address some of these comments as well, if you would like to.
All right. Please give us your name and address. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Steve Peel. I live at 476 East Rivers Edge Lane, Eagle, Idaho 83616. I understand some of Tom's concerns about traffic, and we tried to do our best to address those. I personally have sent 2 emails directly to Tom to try and reach out to have some discussions to address these concerns, but I've never received any response back from him. We've tried to address them with Brent and with David through the application process. We've talked to a lot of the different neighbors and got a lot of different feedback, including the support to address the concerns. One of the things I heard Mr. Moore talk about was we had indicated we were going to have horse shows there. We never said that. We were adamantly opposed to having horse shows. We wanted to have our horses boarded on site, obviously where our residence is going to be. And then we do have some friends and family that have horses that we'd like to board along with them. We did add some clarification on potential training clinics, but just for any horses that are on site with us. This is not a public facility. It's a private property and a private residence, and we very much respect the traffic flow that we're trying to limit to address Mr. Moore's concerns.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission for this testifier? Just shout out.
Yes.
Go ahead, Gwen.
Thank you. And forgive me, if you could kind of clarify the difference between shows and clinics. I apologize, I'm not a horse person.
Yes, could you come back up, please? Yes.
Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Commissioner Drake. The difference, I think, the perception of when you're having a facility maybe like this, and there are other facilities in the county that are open to the public, and they put on equestrian events. They have outside people come in from different areas, bring their horses in, they trailer them in, and they put on shows. We want to have nothing like that. And the difference is a training clinic would be that if we wanted to have, we have horses that are already on site that are there, we would have have a trainer come in and do a clinic for those people who already have the horses with us on site, including ourselves. But it's not a public event place, and we are not going to have shows. So hopefully that clarifies the difference.
It does. Thank you very much.
Before you sit down, any other questions for this person testifying from the commission?
I have a question.
Commissioner Blitman.
The extra conditions included a limitation of horse clinics. Is that clinic definition, could we add a sentence to say limited to horses that are currently on site? So it's clear that nobody's bringing any outside horses in?
Yes, Commissioner Blitman. I believe that's somewhat defined already that way, Brent. It's for private clinics for horses that are already being boarded on site. So might double check that clarification.
So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Blitman, so this would be condition number 16, and the condition currently reads, the owner shall have no more than 4 private riding clinics per year.
So my question is, does the word private, everybody understands that private means we're not bringing any horses from outside the property?
Commissioner Blitman, we're happy to add that for additional clarification, if it helps. Our preference is obviously we don't want to have horses being trailered in all the time either. That's the point of kind of developing this and keeping them on site. So we're certainly okay with adding that clarification.
Thank you. Before you sit down, any other questions for the person testifying? Commissioner Ennis.
This is for David and Steve. So if anybody does park on the road, are you going to make sure that they move their car and park it in your property just to maintain safety as Tom asked for?
Commissioner Ennis, we'll do what we can do to help control that. We will certainly, we feel we have plenty of space on the property, 9.5 acres to provide for enough parking for those people that are going to be visiting us. And we will discourage anybody parking on any of the streets in front of any of the neighbors' houses.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
David, do you have another comment on that?
Yeah, Brent, can you bring up the site plan again?
Sure.
So on this site plan, on the bottom of the site, at the entryway, you don't actually see where the public road ends right there. There's a cul-de-sac, and then it's just a driveway up into the site. So I can't foresee anybody wanting to park that far away on the public street and then walking into the site. It's just not really practical. And then here you can see that there's plenty of parking in front of the arena. in front of the garages, and then in front of the area where the trailers would pull up, for them to unload and load their horses when they come and go. So there's lots of parking on the site. I just want to point that out.
Thank you. Any other questions for the last two people who testified from the commission? All right, thank you. Thanks very much. Brent, based on your discussions with the applicant and the conditions of approval, could you comment on what they may have already done or what may exist in the condition that would help to mitigate Mr. Moore's concerns already?
Mr. Chairman, I would say it would be probably conditions number 15, 16, 17 in the terms of approval. So these would be, terms of approval, these would be conditions that they always have to satisfy for the conditional use application. And so basically condition number 15 was the owner shall have no more than 10 horses in training and or boarding on site. So that limits the number of horses and probably the number of trips to the property based upon that limitation. And then condition number 16 is the owner shall have no more than 4 private riding arenas, riding clinics per year. And then if you decide to kind of further enhance that with Commissioner Blitman's suggestion, that would kind of basically mean that really the clinics would only be for those who are boarding horses on the site. So you're not going to have outside people coming to the clinic or bringing their horses to the clinic. And then condition number 17 was the owner shall have no horse shows at the arena. So this would prevent them from having anybody coming to the site and doing any formal shows on the site. So that would limit the number of people and would lessen the impact of the use in the neighborhood.
Brent, were there other neighbors who sent in emails in favor of the application?
They did. So so with the original staff report, we had an email that the applicant or the owner had sent in that he had received from Doug Jao, who lives, I think, directly to the west of the property. And then there were about 4 or 5 other letters or emails that came in after the staff report was published. And I had sent those additional exhibits to you earlier this week, or actually on last Friday, that had those other neighbors that had expressed their support for this project.
All right, the floor is open for comments from the commission on the application and or questions for Brent. Commissioner Blitman, any comments or questions on the application?
I'm having a hard time navigating and finding those 15, 16, and 17. So which document is that in, Brent?
So Commissioner Blitman, there's actually 2 sets of conditions. So the first set of conditions is for the secondary dwelling. And there's 2 sets of conditions because the AEC application basically has a 1-year approval. And so those are separate from the conditional use conditions of approval. So the first conditions would be the ones for the accessory use, the secondary dwelling. And then the other conditions, which I think this would be Exhibit A, page 4, would be where the conditions I just read off for the riding arena are located. So if you go to Exhibit A, page 3 and 4, those would be the conditions of approval for the riding arena.
So I start with findings, right?
Yep.
And then I go to page 4.
It'd be the very back, so it's Exhibit A, page 4. So the first part of the findings document is the findings. Then we have conclusions of law, and then we have the draft order page, and then we have the conditions of approval. So the Exhibit 4 would be like the second to last page of the findings.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions, Brenda?
Would you mind if you go through the rest of the people and come back and maybe I have a question now that I have a
Sure,
chance to look
sure.
at it?
Commissioner Innes, any comments on the application or questions for Brent?
No, thanks.
Commissioner Birch?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Drake?
No comments.
Commissioner Hilding?
Yeah, just trying to see if I can have a higher level of confidence about one question. The applicant has repeatedly said this is a non-commercial use, and I'm having the same problem navigating this document that Brenda is having. Is there something specifically in the conditions that rules out commercial uses as opposed to use for family and friends?
Brent, I think Paul's addressing that question to you.
So essentially basically if it was strictly for their private use, it would be just for the owner and their immediate family who is living on the site. So if they have, a couple friends or they have some extended family that wants to board horses with it there, that kind of introduces more of a commercial aspect. And this commercial aspect is allowed through this conditional use process. So that is something that they are able to do through the conditional use process. So I think initially with this application and with this initial application, I had to kind of ask for some additional clarification when I was reviewing the application. And that's kind of when I found out that in addition to themselves, they also wanted to have some friends and family board horses there on the site. And so that helped for me when I was doing my analysis, that kind of provided a little bit more information to me on that. So basically the conditions that we have, that number 15, 16, and 17, that limits the number of horses that could be boarded on the property. So that's going to limit the number of people who are boarding there. So this isn't like a major facility where you have a lot of riding arena shows, or there's not like they're doing schools or training on a continuous basis on a commercial. I think they just want to have a little bit of, be able to have a few friends and family board their horses there, and maybe on the property. And so this is what they want to make sure that they're able to do that through this application.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments on the application or questions for Brent before we open the floor to a motion? Brenda, I see a question forming on your lips. You have something else you'd like to ask?
I just wonder, I found the document, so I appreciate it. It's on page 18 of 19. So Brent, do we need to insert a sentence that says for the horses that are on site in number 16 in order to clarify what private means, or does everybody in the world know what private means?
I think it's going to be dependent upon your comfort level, Commissioner Blitman. I don't think it would hurt to add that when you make your motion, to add that to condition number 16, so that, if you really feel like it really needs to be for the horses that are being boarded on site, then you can definitely, I would recommend, having that in your motion to add that to the condition, so that it's very clear that this is what when the commission approved this is what your intent of your approval was.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Brent? I'm going to open the floor to a motion, and Brenda, since you are the one who suggested making an addition to one of the factors, I'm going to suggest that you make the motion.
I guess I'm glad to do that. Is there any other discussion from the other commissioners?
Apparently not.
Okay, based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law contained therein and the testimony from the public hearing, I move that the commission approves project number 202-001-297 CU-AC, subject to the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit A, with the following modification, which is adding that for item 16, that the 4 private riding clinics per year are limited to the horses that are currently either in training or boarding on the site. And there's more. And the site plan drawings dated June 24th, 2020.
Is there a second for that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded for approval with the modification that Commissioner Blitman suggested. I'm going to ask you individually for yays or nays unless there's other discussion. Any other discussion? All right, please indicate yay or nay on the motion. Commissioner Blitman?
Yes.
Commissioner Innes?
Yeah.
Commissioner Birch?
Yay.
Commissioner Drake?
Yay.
Commissioner Hilding?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cuyo votes yes, so it is approved unanimously. Jason, looks like you're up next, unless someone else is going to give us the minutes.
Right here, sir.
Connor is going to give us the minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Or
do
rather,
you
Mark is.
amend motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Come again, Brenda?
Do you want a motion to approve the minutes from our July 16th, 2020 meeting?
Well, that's a heck of a good idea, Brent. Yeah,
Okay.
Brenda, the floor is open for a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the July 16th, 2020 meeting.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Brenda. Now, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, I will go over the board's last public hearing, which was on 7/29. So the first item they had on that was an appeal. The appeal was for a home occupation. The home occupation was for a counseling center on site. The appeal was by the neighbors. The neighbors had concerns with the traffic. They also had concerns about the clients that might come on site. In the end, the board denied the appeal, but they did amend some conditions to offset some of the concerns. Some of those conditions had to do with the number of clients, the hours of operation, and the day and time that they could have those clients on site. So the next one was another appeal. On this appeal, the neighbors again appealed a home occupation. This home occupation was for an appliance repair or parts distribution business. This home occupation proposal was in the same neighborhood as the application you just had before you, except it was on the east end of that development instead of the west end. In the end, the board, they approved this appeal, and they denied the director's decision on approving the actual home occupation. So staff had to revise the findings of facts and conclusions of law in line with the board's decision on that. So the next item was a subdivision. You saw this a few months ago. It was a two-lot subdivision. The property was off of Locust Grove Road. It was a reconfiguration of an existing subdivision. In the end, the zoning on this is RR, so in the end, they had a 10-acre lot and a 13-acre lot. One of the lots was accessed off of will be accessed off of South Locust Grove Road. The other one is off an existing private road. The board did approve this. And again, you did see this a few months ago and made a recommendation to the board for approval as well. So, then the last item is another appeal. This one's actually been tabled to the board's September 9th public hearing. In this case, the gentleman was appealing the denial of a zoning certificate to obtain a building permit for a single-family dwelling. And in this case, the board has asked staff for some additional information. This is a unique piece of property. It's out off of Highway 16, north of Firebird on the east side of the road. There's an illegal subdivision out there. It contains about 15 to 18 lots, and this is one of those lots. The gentleman, again, was looking for a building permit. In this case, the board has asked staff to come back with some additional information. That information has to deal with the price of the property when it was purchased, some access issues, some more history of the illegal subdivision. So those are the kind of things that the board was asking for. So again, there hasn't been a decision on that. We'd hope to get one here in September. So those were the items on the last board's agenda. So I can stop and field any questions at this time.
Any questions from the commissioners for Mark?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Before we adjourn, any other comments or questions from the commission? We are adjourned.
Thank you.